Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues, and with this video, we'll be discussing my thoughts on episode 6 of the anime series Shokugeki no Soma. And I was actually largely surprised. With every episode that's come previous, there's been a match of some type. And this episode was largely changing the formula a little bit, making it more of a stepping stone to the penultimate Shokugeki showdown yet to come, with the Meat Master herself, Mito Ikumi, who we meet full mast in this episode. She was, hinted at the tail end of the previous, and we see that, as one of the characters says, she's basically kind of like the right-hand woman or lackey of Erina, who is trying to shut down all of these little sort of ramshackle research facilities. All of these facilities are focusing on one type of culinary art or another. In this particular case, in this episode, it's the Donmono Research Society, or DonRS, and they have their own way of performing and perfecting a certain type of meal preparation. And you have Erina, who is, going after these. We saw her doing that with the sumo sort of house in the previous episode. And but in this case, she doesn't seem to feel well fitted to do this herself. Or at least she's bowing to the graces of Mito, who's coming along and saying, let me do this. Let me have some fun like you're having and take somebody else down. And of course, this coincides with Soma and Megumi's, after, sort of becoming more familiar with their surroundings in Polar Star Dormitory and learning about, Satoshi's having a garden of all these various kinds of vegetables that he spends a lot of his time, even at the expense of going to classes to perfect and make these grow as succulent and as sweet, in the case of tomatoes that they have Soma taste and everything like that, the flavor of which he says is very sweet and very succulent. Apparently there's a lot of time that Satoshi's taking to perfect this, and we see that this is just one of many sort of scenarios that are involved with their fellow sort of comrades now in the Polar Star. Everybody's kind of, dealing in their own thing. One girl is, growing rice and perfecting rice mixtures and everything like that. One, the one that Soma's talking to, she wants to breed the best kind of class of chicken and all this kind of stuff. Everybody has their own sort of focus, in other words. And so it's kind of interesting that, because I almost wonder if Satoshi would be willing to sort of, or maybe his desires to sort of back away from the competitorship that exists within this particular academy. That's just my speculation, if given the choice. But then again, he does seem a little bit prideful, not nearly as much as some of the other Elite 10 like Erina and such like that, or even Soma himself. Soma likes to rise to the challenge just because, who do they think they are? He doesn't even know half of these people. And just because they have a chip on their shoulder, as is the case with this Mito Ikumi, he runs into this woman because he's basically looking at all these little research sort of societies, and he just wants to see if there's any that might gain his interest. And he ends up at this one, Donmono, where there's only the one guy left, sort of the Elvis hair on steroids. I forget his name off the top of my head, but he's completely depressed. He's like, Erina has set her sights on me. Once all of my conglomerate, my little research facility, once everybody found that out, they went packing. They hightailed it faster than you can say crawl, and left him high and dry. So you basically have Soma coming in, and I don't think he's even interested up until the point Mito shows up on the scene as part of this, they're talking about with all these contractors and construction peeps coming in and just, let's just level the place, much like Erina did the sumo little facility in the previous episode. And so, the game is on at that point for Soma. He's like, well, I got to whip this bitch back a peg. Pardon the language. But that's effectively what he wants to do, and that's what he's been wanting to do with a lot of these very elitist attitude, culinary masters, if you will. And so while we're left with the promise that this will be coming, it's basically they've laid the agreement, and Mito goes off and is basically telling, Erina what she's going to be doing, what she's going to prepare with the beef and everything that she, can utilize because of her familial ties to the meat industry. We have, basically it's like Soma, Megumi, and this guy are testing out potential don recipes, and you know, they're trying to perfect and just get one that is so spot on, it'll whip, you know, Mito in the bud. It'll whip Erina in the bud. And it's interesting to see them going through that process and then kind of being left off with the cliffhanger when they finally have something in mind that'll work to their advantage potentially. And I absolutely love, at the tail end of this, you have Soma's, you know, like, he's agreeing to basically be sent packing if he loses, but he's made Mito agree to join Don RS if she fails. And you know that's probably what's going to happen. And I can't wait for that to happen. I can't wait to see this character, who I very much compared the physicality. The hair's not quite the same, but the physicality and look reminded me of a character from Daphne and the Brilliant Blue, which is one of my favorite anime series, you know, at least in my top 20. And it's the character of Gloria from that show, who's very much sort of impetuous and sort of full of herself, Genguro, in that she's tan and blonde, but she's supposed to be a Japanese woman and everything, and very much kind of a similar attitude and look, you know, like if she got a haircut, basically, that's what this, you know, Mito Okumi character is and embodies. And so you basically have, at the tail end of this, Erina being like, it's a sure thing at this point. And Soma's ready to rock, ready to rumble. Of course, the guy in Don RS is like, we're going to lose. You know, he's just doom and gloom the entire episode. And we did have a couple of funny fantasy sort of segments where he's explaining the classification of the meat, and he's doing the boxing thing. And then, of course, when Soma prepares his piece de resistance of dishes, you know, both he and Megumi are having this sort of fantasy. It's not quite as funny as it has been in previous episodes, but I just can't wait to see, you know, Soma level the playing field with this Mito and, you know, bring her to that level, to the point where it's going to be like dead-legging her. She's going to be down on her knees and having to beg, you know, to remain serious, remain a threat, by sort of faltering to Soma's, you know, capabilities. At least that's the way I think it's going to probably go. I'd be very, you know, shocked if, unless they call it a draw, and this, you know, elongates and the Mito character continues to be sort of a villainous or a rival in any case. But, you know, short of them calling it a draw, I think it's going to be Soma basically wiping the floor with her. And Erina, I can't wait to see the look on her face when that happens. So this was a good episode, all things considered, and I like that we're learning more about the environment and you know, their fellow, as I say, comrades in Polar Star Dormitory. Seeing the chip on, you know, Mito's shoulder, and how this is sort of, you know, an extension of the way Erina feels about herself and her plans and everything. And you have to almost wonder, at least I'm left wondering, if in some manner of speaking, you know, Soma's not just going to be trying to take these elitist, you know, sort of fraternity minds and bodies back a peg. Is he there to kind of become the hero of this culinary academy, where maybe he's got to save these smaller ramshackles? It's basically what he's doing with this particular Danmono Research Society. You know, he's gotten involved now, and the outcome is to keep it running. Not let Erina wipe the floor with the place and level it like she did with the sumo one. So yeah, otherwise I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments below what you thought of this episode of Shokugeki no Soma, or Food Wars. You know, did it impress you as much as it did me? I would say, you know, the bar has probably lowered just slightly from the quality of the previous episodes in the hilarity and the absurdity, but it's still no less interesting to me, and I can't wait to see the next step. So yeah, anything goes in the comments below, as long as it's not spoilery material, you know, from the source material, basically, as I always ask. Speculations, I would love to hear your thoughts on where this is all going to be going next. And yeah, otherwise, I hope this video finds you well, and I'll catch you all later. Peace.